Oh, no, yeah, no, I for sure was done. Last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Last time I was in Florida, I got COVID, so glad I came home and died. Ready?
Yep.
All right, it is 1:05. I'll call our meeting to order. Everyone, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See you again, Brian. Everybody almost started that last time without you here.
Sorry.
So we do not have any claims for the day. We have minutes here for approval. Is there?
So moved.
I have a motion by Paul Ryder, seconded by Jack Bailey. Is there any discussion on the approval of the minutes? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So that's all of our business for the day. I guess, Brian, or Mr. Fuller, could you address the audience here?
Yeah, could you sign the minute?
Oh, yeah. Brian Fuller, we need to, well, let's just see if Michelle shows up. Otherwise, we have to select the secretary, right?
No,
Barry will do it.
we'll get her to sign it and then read it.
Brian Fuller, key glasses. Get those keep having those birthdays, Josh. I wanted to update on the US 421 project. We have contractors, milestone contractors. They've already been awarded the project and signed contracts. We've had a pre-construction meeting this morning. We had a kind of a progress meeting to see where we were. We had so far they have got the right-of-way staked and right-of-way cleared. So there's, you can kind of see some of the land cleared out, some of the brush has been cleared out. We're waiting on utilities to relocate before they can start work. And Frontier has relocated 3 pedestals, and NIPSCO was supposed to start work on April 1st, was what their original date was. They have had some delays, material delays, and getting a contractor procured. So as of now, their new start date is May 2nd, which will now push back Milestone and may push back the NDOT project, which is the overlay project. So the NDOT overlay project, which is 421 from basically the bridge on south end of Delphi all the way to the Clinton County line, is scheduled to bid on April 6th, and then contractors will start probably 45 to 60 days after that. So we've been in communication with NDOT that, hey, our guys may be a little bit late in widening everything, so hopefully they can start on the Clinton County line and then work their way north. So that's kind of where we are. Indiana Packers was at the meeting this morning. There should be no disruption as NIPSCO does their work. They're transferring over gas main, high pressure main. There should be no disruption to the a little bit delayed, but gosh, we'll try to do everything we can to keep it good. Any questions?
I mean, we don't foresee any challenges with NDOT. I mean, them saying, hey, this is our schedule and we're sticking to it.
Well, I mean, they're gonna pretty much have to. It depends. A Milestone's gonna bid on that project too,
So they might be doing both.
they might be, like, it's, yeah, the contractor's just gonna have to make it work, so. So it's gonna let on the 6th, is that what you said? NDOT project will let on April 6th, and then it's usually about 45 to 60 days. So when? 45 days to the award. Okay. Well, so when bids are coming in high. So, shocker. Yeah. I've heard 40% of NDOT bids are coming in. That's the next one.
know who the low bidder was after April 16th? Is it 45 days or?
Well, you'll know right away. NDOT publishes those within a week.
So we should theoretically know if Milestone should win the project on April 6th.
Okay, maybe a few days. It takes them a little while.
Because that's best case scenario for us, because they can just do it, right? I mean, if our overlay is delayed, they just pay it as soon as it's light. Okay, so, but that reality we won't know until the 6th. Awesome.
And Milestone, I mean, they would come in, NIPSCO has about 30 days to complete their work. So we're hoping early June, Milestone can get started on their work. So pushes them back a month and a half, but.
Any other questions?
NIPSCO can't begin until May 4th.
May 2nd,
May 2nd.
the NDOT resurfacing project is April 6th.
There's nothing Milestone can do until NIPSCO.
It's yeah, we talked about that this morning. We said, can you get in
Stay
there?
out of
And
your
they
way,
just,
I'll work over here.
yeah,
you work over
and it's a
there.
high pressure line, so they don't wanna be on top of, they're replacing the high pressure lines. That was brought up this morning.
I mean, they've only had a year to know, or 18 months, 2 years, I don't know, forever.
We started utility notification in November of 2020. There's no, the state legislation has not provided any type of hammer to go after utilities. Kind of numbers. All right, thank you.
Jake, you got anything today?
No new updates, sir?
Mayor?
No new updates here either.
Wow. School?
No presentation. Wants to speak. Or is that later on the agenda?
Yeah, I know what's.
If you guys wanna go ahead and present what you have.
Okay.
Yeah, go.
All right. Well, thank you. Coming here, as you may have heard, the Delphi, we're adding a new branch to our CTE program, which is Career Technical Education. We're adding a branch of the Advanced Manufacturing section, which is great for our kids to learn the robotics and that are in with SIAs, IPCs, and a lot of the other manufacturing companies that are local with us. So we're pretty excited about this. So we're adding this division, and we're here to ask for some money to help with the startup of this program for our kids. We have a lot of kids excited in this. Specifically, we're asking for the money will be used for what I know as, because I'm not an advanced manufacturing person. If you have any questions that goes along with that, I can get those back to you. But this will be a motherboard that we'll be purchasing for our students to use directly within that classroom. From my understanding, this motherboard that will work with robots that we've had donated from SIA, we have 2 robots that were donated from SIA, will work with those robots in terms of like the robotics and the connections with those. It also works with electricities and different things along those lines. It has different maintenance aspects that you can work with, not just with those robots, but with other things within the manufacturing industry as well. It also comes with lessons that the teacher can utilize to work with those students and so forth. And it can be interchangeable, from my understanding, it can be interchangeable. I know the SIAs are Mitsubishi, and I think IPC is like Japanese, so they're a little bit different, but they're interchangeable. So they will be able to, students who can gain some knowledge while at school can still stay in our county, go to IPC and work within the IPCs and have a step up on some of the other competitions as they're looking for jobs out there in the industry. So, and that's pretty much what we're excited to start talking about. So, is there anything else that I may be missing?
Oh, DDC, we spoke to Indiana Packers about this, what this means to them and how it impacts them, and so I think, from their standpoint, this is a way for them to funnel, training into the school, and we have talked about that, with the schools as well. of how do we transition adult learners, adult workers from Indiana Packers into this equipment to be able to train and certify. So there's no materialistical there's not a deliverable for that now, but Packers has indicated that they are willing and interested in engaging the school if this equipment is available here in our community. So that's on the industry side.
How much is it?
Roughly around 60,000. And this will help with the connection of those robots. We also are, SIs, hopefully they're redoing the same similar robots that they have in a small motherboard that will help with our robots, but sometimes when they're getting new stuff, they account for being broken and stuff like that. But so we'll make sure we get the connection to be able to work for our students.
This will make Delphi the hub for the advanced manufacturing class for this area. So you're not only servicing Delphi School, Carroll School will probably send their kids over. Twin Lakes has already got a bus running down here for criminal justice. They're just gonna put their advanced manufacturing kids on the same bus. So you're not just looking at a small group of population of the Delphi kids. You've got some neighboring kids, Frontier has kids
as well, yep.
as well. Those kids we'll bring them here for the class and then send them back home for English and government whenever we need to graduate. So, you know, in our world at Indian Trails, we have host schools, we have sending schools. So we work out those details as far as who's gonna be the host and which schools are gonna send to it, and work out coordination for timing on the buses and what happens when one's on a 1 hour delay and the other 2 hour delay. We can work all those details out. But we just need someone to host it and have the stuff that we need to be able to get these kids that certification so they can go to work at a Subaru or an SIA or someone that's just looking for that manufacturing skill set.
Will the kids be receiving an AME certification, or?
I'm not sure it'll be AME, I'll have to go back and look and see which ones they get, but we've got some certifications. CPT is normally the easiest one to get, I shouldn't say easy. It's the most manageable to get, nothing's easy. But if they can get CPT, but we could, depending on the instructor, what else certifications that instructor brings with it. If they're willing to do the AME, then yeah, we can go that route.
So do we have, is this kind of like a build it and they'll come kind of thing, or do we have a roadmap for what it looks like for utilization, or when it would start? What's the rollout?
We'll be currently in the process of interviewing, so we'll be starting in next school year. We do have kids that are actually interested in the programs already, so both inside our school and outside our school as well.
You say interviewing, you mean the instructor?
Yes.
So there is no instructor currently?
No.
And the school's covering the instructor pay?
Correct, yes.
What other expenses would the school incur in this project?
Well, obviously, when you're bringing in some robotics and stuff like that, there'll be some labor and maintenance of hooking those stuff up to electrical panels and different stuff like that. So I'm assuming those will be incorporated along with that. And you're starting a whole new classroom, so there'll be other small stuff that we won't be able to utilize from other areas that we can find mistakes to use for kids. So in terms of that aspect, I don't really know, but I would say hooking up the robots and stuff like that.
And then you do receive some revenue for hosting, correct?
Yes, for hosting and students that take the classes. For any CTE classes students, we receive funding for students who take CTE classes.
And so how many students do you anticipate, or what would your capacity be, or any ideas there projecting that?
Well, we have, usually we try to keep those classes to 15-ish because if you're talking, with that high volume of electricity and the robotics aspect, you have safety issues if you start getting them too higher than that. Makes sense. So, yeah. And from other schools that I don't know, I haven't.
Wednesdays and Tuesdays,
Yes,
which is what we normally get anyway, but if you've got 10 at Delphi and you pick up 2 from the surrounding schools, you're 15 in heartbeat.
Barry, I mean, in terms of the spending dollars for the benefit of the TIF kind of test, do we meet that guideline?
Well, technically, you want to have a connection between, that it will be help or supporting the TIF area.
Yeah.
And the TIF area is mentioned how it would assist Indiana Packers Corporation with some training, is that correct? And
So that could be our connecting the dots, if you will, and benefiting the TIF.
could be,
Yeah.
would be.
Would be.
So is this something we need to research to make sure that we have all our T's crossed and I's dotted?
I think that this grant, probably, if you would like further research from Kenya, but, I think that you're gonna have that tenuous connection between IBC.
So without IPC sending workers there, I mean, regardless of whether they do or they don't, that would be the plan. Without that plan, would we have a more difficult path to say, these dollars have a direct benefit to the allocation area?
Yes, yes. Definitely.
I think another area, it does make it more not complex, it does add a different layer. But some of the justifiable areas where we've seen TIFs draw nexus is through what they call NAICS codes, which are basically occupation codes. And if you're certifying high school students in the occupations in which the employers in the TIF hire, then that draws into the nexus realm. So that we're basically certifying a workforce to be employed within the TIF area. So that would have to be justified in writing further than just maybe Indiana Packers supplying employees that work there.
So I mean, the other route would be we're training, potentially future, workers for IPC, our main employer within the TIF, that they would have a leg up in terms of hiring and working at that facility. That's kind of what you're saying?
To feel comfortable for myself or even the commission, I think it's something from Indiana Packers stating that these occupations directly correlate with employees that we want to hire or are looking to hire, I think would help draw that closer to being, that doesn't, I don't know if that makes the legal parameters correct, but that would be an area where I think we would ask for their support.
Yeah, in the abstract, I'm very much in favor of this whole thing, so I appreciate you guys putting this together. I think we have some.
So didn't you say
traps
you
around
talked
it.
to Packer?
It was just verbally, that there was a process or a program starting, that Subaru had donated you some machines, and where do you see yourself fitting in that? And we had recently had a workforce training program teed up for Indiana Packers a few years ago. We had it funded and put together, and the issue was that the workers were gonna have to leave the community to train, and they weren't willing to accept the risk of sending their employees past the plant or 30 minutes away to train in a facility, and all the things that tie to that. And so this really meets them where they're at. We've always been trying to find a solution to that. This just so happened to be that avenue. So more conversations need to be had with them, and a sense of finality of writing. Yes, we support this. Yes, our employees would train on this. Yes, this fits our occupational codes for our employment. So that's where I'm at currently.
Would we want Josh to kind of formalize that and present us with that?
I would say give Barry a month to get all the legal hoops jumped through, give Jake and Key the opportunity to communicate, make sure that all the documentation is in order.
Let's say Josh, not Jake.
Yeah, it's not the first time that's happened.
You're not the only one.
Sir, I know you said that the SIA has contributed robots to
Yes.
this. Has Indiana Packers contributed any equipment or anything to this?
Not at this time. We just had a connection through SIA because somebody that worked within our school corporation, and they heard that robots were getting replaced or decommissioned, whatever you want, whatever the word was. So we kind of touched base, like, hey, some great opportunity for us to have those robots within our building. So that was the first step. And now I actually sat down with Jake and talked about touch base with IPC and stuff like that.
I think there's opportunities as we kind of breathe some life into this, like for example, I just got off the phone this morning with, the electrical program at, Carroll. And so, and that's kind of run through Gaylor Electric and the Association of Electric Contractors, but like, when this is being set, that's like a very great opportunity for that class to be able to practically apply the electrical in a supervised way. So, I mean, I think there's a great opportunity for synergy here around the program, and you know, the more we can kind of collaborate and figure out where all those dovetails are, the better off we'll be in terms of, you know, launching it.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, we would have other kids come into our school to be learning this type of stuff as well, you know, at local county school as well too.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So this kind of, just Jim, this kind of goes back to you, like, how do we know that, or how do we ensure I mean, 15 seems like a small number, but it's a lot. I know I've been involved, it's a lot to get 15 kids to do anything. How do we have the best success rate of marketing, quote unquote, this to the student population to get buy-in and ensure that we get the numbers?
It's always a roll of the dice with the kids. I mean, they change their minds, and so do adults. Consistently, though, I would say there have been numbers, when we do surveys, and we probably do those, if not every year, every other year, just to find out, okay, what are you thinking, kids? So we know which direction they're going. Manufacturing would normally hit somewhere 15 to 20 kids in this geographic area. I've got other kids up north in Newton and Jasper County. Yeah, that number's not, it doesn't deviate a whole lot. Now, occasionally you'll have the kid that moves out of the county, and you'll have the kid that, you know, flunks government, he's gotta go back and take that over again, so he doesn't have time in the schedule to take the manufacturing classes. Yeah, we deal with those are onesies and twosies. But 15's a pretty solid number. And to point to Jeff, I wouldn't go a whole lot over 15 for some of these classes. I mean, some of that stuff, you know, kids lose a finger pretty quick if you're not doing a good job. To give you another idea, though, of something that we did at West Central years ago up in Francisville, the local employers, in which we're talking Galfab and Braun Corporation, back then Plymouth Tube was up there, they were short on welders. They needed people that were welding certifications. So they contacted us at the school, and we said, well, we've got all the facilities, we can teach. You know, tell us what skill sets you need us to teach. And they listed off 15 skill sets and said, here's what we need to apply. So they sent their employees to us after school, when the facility was open, and Work One back then paid the salary for the teacher to stay in the evening and teach those 15 skill sets. And we knocked it out in about 4 weeks. I think they came Tuesdays and Thursdays for 4 weeks. We knocked out the 15 skill sets they needed. They went and got certified. For the employee, it was a pay raise, because you went from just general labor to some higher level, so they got $1 an hour pay raise. And for the employers, they're saying, this is great, because we got no place nearby that we can send them to get trained. So that relationship you can build over time. So if India Factors comes back to you after this thing's off and running and says, hey, can you teach this skill set? We just need to see what is that skill set, and let the instructor take a look at it and say, yes, I can do that, or no, that's out of my realm, and we need, you know, you need to provide the instructor. You can come to our facility for a fee. Yes, we ran rate, but you know, we had those relationships before. And back in the day, when Work One paid for it, everybody wanted to be happy. When the school made money, the teacher made extra money to put in their pocket for Christmas. The employees got extra money when they went back to work, and the employers got a more valued worker. So everybody walked away with a smile on their face on that. Now that's a few years down the road, but again, it's long term when you're looking at, do I meet the needs of my biggest employer in my Temper area? You could, very quickly.
But I just wanna make sure that we get those feedback loops tightened up early and get commitments for those feedback loops, because that's where these things die. It's like something gets thrown out there, it's a good idea, but nothing gets followed up on, and enrollment dwindles, and boom. So I just wanna, you know, ensure as best we can that there's an opportunity for it to.
I will never guarantee what a kid will do.
Well, I mean, it's not the kid's fault if it's the employer that's not meeting, that they're not communicating the needs to the school.
Right, and if IPC comes back and says, we need to know X, Y, Z, and you know, we're not equipped to teach X, Y, Z. You know, I mean, if you want us to do that, then you're gonna have to provide an instructor, because we don't have And if we don't have the machinery to teach it, okay, IPC, you're gonna have to pony up a lot more. And we have the facilities, but if you need something really specific, you're gonna have to help. And when we did it at West Central, Plymouth Tube donated all the steel we needed. One of them, the other donated gas, so we made it as cheap as we could. They brought something to the table for us. Not outlandish, we weren't asking them for $100,000 or anything.
Well, that was a similar scenario because they were stuck with running between Valpo and Logansport. And they just didn't have, I mean, I was part of that scenario up there. And they were just, the employers didn't want their workers leaving the community. And we saw a successful convergence of resources because once they brought it to their community, it became a kind of a clearinghouse for the local employers.
Yeah. And that's not hard to do. I won't speak for anybody, but it's their building. Has a lot of potential.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. So I guess, from our side, Jake and our esteemed council will circle up the service. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it very.
Josh, may I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
As you all know, we're, as a county, trying to build a jail. And the question has come up several times of if the TIF district would be willing to participate or maybe even pay for the sewage and water line to run down to the jail. That would be from the corner of the highway down to the site. And it has to be, from our engineering that has been done, it has to be on the south side of the road because we don't want to interfere with the drives of backers doing any of that. So that was a question that I just wanted to throw out here and find out if there is. This has been a very nebulous thing as far as us being able to find out how much is this going to cost. The last meeting we had last week with the architects, that specific question was asked, and he said several $100,000.
What's that?
Yeah.
No shit.
No, you mean
Huh?
the utility?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I think I've heard $1 million, but haven't you?
That's what the last bid package said.
Yeah.
I mean,
A million even.
it was like $1.2 million, but 200,000 was site prep and $1 million was utility, something like that.
Well, it has to be, we have to acquire the easement too, which we have done the preliminary work on. We've had the appraisals done on it. And of course, by Indiana statute now, those appraisals are only good for a certain amount of time before we gotta go back and have them reappraised. And so, really, I think this is the time that the TIF district should at least look at acquiring that easement, because you don't wanna have to go back and have it all appraised again. That was pretty expensive. I don't remember how much it was. Do you remember how much it was? But anyway, it seems like that anything that would come in on that part of your TIF district, south of Packard, is gonna have to have water and sewer. Now, how much water and sewer, how big of a line? I mean, we can tell how much we're gonna have for our little thing here of our jail, but of feeding anything we have on the south side.
So, are you looking at the whole project or just the easements right now?
That's a good question, and, well, I'm looking at the whole project, because I'm still trying to get it under that $16.5 million figure that, is our top dollar. So this has to be included, this has to be part of that money.
Right. Well, I think that this has come up, haven't we discussed this? I think it's been at least broached here, and I don't think there was any pushback on it that I could recall, but, so, in terms of, I mean, I think that the EDC will have to weigh in on this, but, the specific needs of how it's constructed, that there's, a lot of and Brian is aware of the project as well, I mean, there's the project as it has been laid out and some of the needs that were addressed in terms of manhole covers, in terms of distances and all those kinds of things that are practically applicable as an economic development project might be different than if the county was buying it and burying it and it's only serving them. So, I think that it would probably behoove the RDC and the EDC to sit down and look at like what the needs would be, that we make sure that those are all laid out on the front end to say, you know, we need X, Y, and Z to be able to participate so that it's a functional asset for economic development. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I think HWC had outlined a phase 2 for the industrial park area that would be running adjacent to this infrastructure.
Right.
So it would be a good interest to figure out what needs can be met on that site. I mean, there's some site certification credentials essentially.
Chief, let me make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
You're saying, sir, that what you're looking at is actually running another line beside this one, or you're looking at the capacity of this line?
Capacity.
Capacity, okay.
And from what I've seen from Butler Fairmont Cyber, Michelle Wise, Butler Fairmont Cyber, she's sent me the plans. They appear to be adequate to serve that area to the south, was just farm fields. Now, to an extent, so if you bring in.
What kind of industry and what the water needs are.
Right, you know, the size of the sewer pipe, the size of the water pipe,
For most industry.
for most industry that you would be.
Adequate for that.
Yeah, now if you bring in a big plant that's gonna use a lot of processed water, or, you know, something like that, then you may have some issues, but.
You
I
would
mean,
have issues other than the height.
right, you're gonna still have to do stuff at the plant.
About what size pipe, sewer pipe, what is that? So
I think,
it looks like-
I think it's a 10-inch water and a 12-inch sewer.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. And that's-
So it sounds like this has already been looked at then, and so.
And been sized, and they've lowered it, they've put it deep enough so we could, if anything developed on that south end, it could be gravity fed now, to a certain point. That's a good feeling.
And that's the strategic advantage as well, and I don't wanna speak beyond the landowners, because we've had those discussions, but just for planning and development purposes, there's a lot of acreage there that appeals to large-scale projects that we're seeing on the acreage side. So being able to have the infrastructure in place, and then potentially, depending on discussions, have a couple hundred acres, which we don't have on inventory now. And Phil has been down this road dozens of times. So we certainly would love to have a couple hundred acres as an inventory piece as we prospect for companies that we don't have. So if we could solve multiple problems, I think it would be a benefit.
So the reason I asked that is like, I don't wanna get the cart before the horse, I mean, like, without a signed, sealed, delivered package, for the whole jail project, it is in the long-term interest. I don't think this would be top of mind for the RDC, EDC, but for the jail project. I think that everybody here is leaning forward and saying, if the jail project is now, then, you know, we should participate in it because we're gonna do it anyway. However, like, if the opportunity, or if the jail were to not be built at that site, or if the jail was 2 or 3 years down the road, or any number of ifs, then we would probably wait, because there's no, like, tomorrow type urgency for us to build it. But if there is urgency on the easement, then that, we could take that, because that is gonna be needed regardless, right? So.
Yes, I mean, it's not that we gotta do it next week,
Yeah.
but there is a date that we have to get done, to get that easement. And the way I've seen the plans going, where there are manholes, covers and surface risers that are running all the way down through there.
Clean up.
Yeah, and so, it will not be farmed over the top of it.
So what do you know what specifically what you need?
You know, I can have that for next meeting.
Okay, no, I think that's probably the thing to do.
I think it'd be good to
But
find,
but it still gives you enough time?
Yes.
I think it'd be good to find out if the property owner, if you can get an easement from the property owner, and what that cost would be.
We have two different appraisals.
Okay.
And I don't know that it's gonna be an easy
Right.
process to get, but
I've heard that they'll work with us, is what I've heard.
Well,
We need the commissioners kind of to move forward and, you know, trying to grab that easement and communicate to them, maybe to their attorney.
From a logistics perspective, can the commissioners turn this over to us and then we handle, I mean, this is, I don't know what y'all's spot, could you give us an opinion by the next time? Like, if we are the ones that run the acquisition, or if it has to be them since they've started it, or how does that work?
Well, first of all, I have represented the owner to the south property.
So you have a
So
conflict?
I don't want it to be a conflict of interest. I really don't want any involvement with that at all. Now, secondly, I have submitted my resignation as of December. Maybe we'll want to act on that quickly. So if we get another attorney in here, so it doesn't pose that conflict of interest. Thirdly, you just, and you were suggesting that the commission acquire the easement or handle the acquisition of the easement, is that correct?
That's what I was curious about.
I would think that you probably could acquire it that way. But, again, I'm hesitant to go any further with your recommendations, because of my conflict with interest.
Gotcha. What a big bowl of spaghetti, huh?
Huh?
What a big bowl of spaghetti.
Oh, it is, you know, but from a commissioner's standpoint, I don't think there'd be any problem just say, okay, you guys acquire that. There's no gain for us, I mean, right, there would be for this board.
We get movement that way, if we took the bull by the horns.
That's-
We get movement, you know.
You would acquire it, but you acquire it in the name of the Carroll County Board of Commissioners.
Right.
As you know, any of the easements that we acquire is in the Carroll County Board of Commissioners.
Did we donate property to the EDC, like the south, TIF development area? Doesn't economic development on that?
Say no
They,
more.
they.
You sold
we
it to
already
'em.
deeded the property, but then the right of way has been deeded to the county.
They answered my question. And then when we did that sewer improvement project, we turned and went up to the highway and stuff, but I believe.
Yes.
Say that again.
My question.
When we did the Ushahart Industrial Park, we took a sewer pipe out to basically.
To the highway.
To the
Stop.
highway, in anticipation of taking it across the road at some point in the future.
Gotcha. Yes.
That entail cutting the highway, or you punch over it?
You're gonna have to deal with that underneath. That's the way,
I didn't, you're gonna have to.
they're bore underneath the highway, yeah. Yeah, we brought that up, about, as part of this project, about maybe open cutting, and I'm thinking about one of those. So,
slightly different topic, but along the same lines. We're talking about, sewer, water, and, also talking about Butler, Fairmont, and Seifert, and of course, the RDC and IPC funded a third of the, sewer study that Butler, Fairmont, and Seifert is just wrapping up. So we hope to be back in touch with you either next meeting or a meeting thereafter to present those findings, basically. And that probably will come shortly thereafter with an ask to assist with the clarifier project to add redundancy to the system as we proceed with a wastewater expansion project. So we'll ask for them to come before you in the next month or so to present those findings and kind of lay out the picture and the timeline over the next several years.
Okay, so you're coming next month? Or next couple of months?
Within the next couple of months, yeah, we should have one more meeting with them, and then we'll see if we're ready to present, and certainly we would come, but also Butler, Fairmont, and Seifert would come to lay out their findings.
Gotcha. I'm just trying to put pins in all these, we got a lot of balls up in the air.
We do.
So, just so I have this right for the minutes, we're going to do our due diligence on the school deal, so we'll hear that again next month. The mayor is gonna come in the next month or two. We're gonna do the counties, or we're gonna hear the counties ask for the right-of-ways next month.
Right.
And then, so is that everybody's, am I missing anything? Okay, I think that's everything. And then Barry, do we, so I guess the next thing we need to talk about is Barry's retirement. So should we put together, or I think it would be prudent for us to have an RFQ or put out an RFQ probably sooner than later.
Excuse me, what's an RFQ?
Oh, our RFQ, request for qualifications. Then we have that, like, for example, if you and I can work this month, have it ready for next month, we could publish it in April, and then, give us 30 to 60 days to make a decision in terms of, out of the list of candidates that responded on the RFQ. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can I throw in another
Absolutely.
piece of spaghetti?
Sure. It's gonna be like a church potluck here in a minute.
Yeah. I am going to come at the April meeting.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. But we can work this
I'll
month.
be here, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you and I can knock it out
Okay.
in an hour if we,
Okay.
we're pretty focused on it.
Great.
Is that all right with everybody?
Sure.
Maybe we should have a formal, would anybody like to make a motion to give me the authority to meet with Barry and draw the RFQ?
So we,
All right, I have a motion by Paul Ryder. Is there a second? Seconded by Bill Brown. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so we'll do that. Thanks for coming in, everyone. I appreciate your time and looking out for the community. So, any other business? Good then? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign? Motion carries. Have a good weekend. Oh, next meeting is April 11th. All right. Yeah, April 11th.